My name's Ed. I'm the owner of a 1935 Cadillac that I purchased in Philadelphia, and it was all apart. So when you buy a car when it's all apart, you don't know if you're getting all the parts or not. And we found out we were missing a steering wheel and we were missing the two headlight lenses. And they seemed like they were nowhere to be found. I advertised and everything else, tried to find something. And everybody told me that the headlight lenses were absolutely unattainable. We're here at Alumilite in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we're going to pour this here steering wheel in a little bit and these headlight lenses.
When reproducing lenses from an original, the type of silicone used is absolutely necessary in order to replicate a clear lens. The Plat 55 not only will replicate the exact surface quality and sheen, which is high gloss of the part, will also allow the two halves of the mold to be structurally sound so that they register exactly in order to reproduce an exact replica. Plat 55 will pick up every detail off of your original, so it's extremely important that you clean it really well. Make sure there isn't any dirt in the nooks and crannies, because that will translate into a hazy part on the lens, as well as fingerprints. If your fingerprints are all over the original, they will reappear in every replica that you cast. Once the Plat 55 is thoroughly mixed, we can go ahead and put it in the vacuum chamber and pull out all of the excess air out of the silicone so that we get a truly perfect void-free casting. Each of the lenses have been set on a base of synthetic clay and just very gently push down into the clay to provide a seal. The base of synthetic clay also acts as the second half of the mold while we pour the first half. The weight of the lenses will hold the lens to the bottom, preventing from floating, so it's not really necessary that they be embedded. Plus, you want to replicate every part of the lens. Once the Plat 55 has been degassed, we're ready to pour. Allow the silicone to naturally flow in and around the original. Multiple batches of Plat 55 may be needed, based on how much you can mix and degas at one time. Now that our Plat 55 has cured, we can turn the mold box over in order to remove that base of clay that acted as the first half of the mold. It's extremely important to remove the clay gently and not disturb the seal between the first half of the mold and the lens. Small clay tools like these offered by Alumilite are excellent and really help you get in the nooks and crannies to remove every bit of clay that's around the original. When we have all the clay removed, we wipe down the surface to remove any last bit of clay. Then we're ready to add our mold release as an interface between the two halves of the mold. For this application, we're using our rubber-to-rubber mold release. What we don't want to do is apply a bunch of mold release all over our original on our lens, which can affect the clarity of the lens. After a few coats of rubber-to-rubber mold release and allowing it to dry for 15 minutes, we're ready to pour our second half. After the mold was cured, we applied some talc powder to break the surface tension to make the mold a little bit easier to handle. We then took an instrument to break the seal between the mold box and the mold. Now that our mold is made, go ahead and separate the two halves. It's important not to touch any of the glossy areas of the mold, as this can dull the mold. Carefully remove your original, reassemble the two halves together, making sure that the locators are lined up precisely, and then clamp the mold shut. The casting resin we're using today is Alumilite water clear resin. This is an optically clear resin that gives you about 10 to 15 minutes of working time and will demold in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We began by measuring out equal amounts of water clear A and B. This is a 1-to-1 mix ratio by weight product only. It cannot be mixed by volume. Because this mold is larger than our pressure pot, we will not be pressure casting, so it's very important to degas the resin really well. Degassing the resin will remove the majority of the air bubbles, and any air bubbles left in the system should be very minute. Once the degassing process is done, we hold the mold apart and slowly pour into the mold cavity filling it to the top, and then gently close the mold as the resin rises towards the top of the mold. When clamping the top section, be sure not to over clamp. Over clamping can cause the mold to distort, causing your lens to distort. Once the resin is cured, we can separate our mold halves and remove our newly cast lens. If you have any questions about this application or any other auto restoration project, give us a call. We're here to help. We can be reached at 1-800-447-9344. You can also find additional content and videos on our website at alumilite.com.